Hello Vault Heads, this is the self-proclaimed, sarcastically named Captain KeyForge, also known as PJ Broughton of the Steel City Snufflegators.
Welcome to the latest Captain's Commpod. So we're going to talk about the proposed organised play, the good, the bad, and I was going to make you make your own mind up about the last one, but it's going to be the good, the bad, and the response, because Ghost Galaxy have already beaten me to my thoughts on it with their response. So I will say this, they want to try and keep as many people happy, they want what's best for the game, and they want to make it thrive, so I applaud them for that. I'll begin by talking about their plans for sealed. So it is sealed. You would open two decks. Two decks would give you 6 houses of cards, which they would refer to as house pods. And then using those 6 house pods, you would put together 3 individual separate houses. You couldn't use Mars twice, for instance. And you would come up with a Archon deck from any 6 of those house pods, as long as they don't use the same house. And I quite like this idea. I think it was very good. Anyone who's played a lot of KeyForge and has played at tournaments and has played in sealed events will have gotten a sealed deck in a sealed tournament where one of the houses was poor and completely let it down. And it doesn't make it unplayable. You can still play with it. Whether or not you can win with it is another matter. We've all been there. They could tell that we'd all been there, because you can see that they had been looking at streams and blogs and things like that before they came up with these rules. So it was something that was complained about, and I was happy with that. I would feel it would address it. So I'm kind of all for those changes. To me, those were the good, and also as well, thanks to the community's feedback on the article about organised play that was originally released at the weekend, they've decided to add in sealed, original Archon sealed. You buy one deck and that's what you play with. So there will be 2 sealed organised play variants as it stands: Alliance and sealed. So yeah, to me, pretty good there. The next one was Archon. This one for me was the bad. Okay, they proposed to take out solo Archon and make it Archon Triad, where you take 3 Archon decks and you have to be able to win with at least 2 of them, because your opponent will always be able to ban one and you will be able to pick from the decks that remain. However, in their triad as well, every time you win with a deck, that deck would become exhausted and you wouldn't be able to use it in the next round. So if you win round 1, round 2, basically, your opponent looks at 2 decks and picks which ones you're going to play. And that happens while ever you're winning. And the only time you get to pick from the remaining 2 decks is in round 1, because obviously you haven't won, and after any game that you lose, because obviously, again, you haven't won, you lost, so you would be able to pick your own deck after your opponent banned one. And I didn't like this. I prefer Archon, standard solo Archon. I don't necessarily want to be trying to pick my opponent's best or worst deck. I don't want to have to constantly change the deck I play every game, which in this format you would, because you can't win and then play the same deck again. And also as well, a lot of people were saying some of the other formats might favour people who own an awful lot of decks. This one certainly would. So yeah, I didn't like it. But Ghost Galaxy have run that one back. The Archon format that they are now proposed to use is Archon Solo. Bring a KeyForge deck. Once KeyForge deck, 3 exactly as printed, and you will use that for every single round of the tournament. And again, I'm happy with that. I was a little bit disappointed with the other one, although I would have lived with it, but this I'm very happy with. So now let's go on to the controversial one, Alliance. So originally they proposed to allow you to put together 3 house pods, as in 12 cards, all of one house, from any KeyForge deck ever, without any other caveats to it. And this was controversial. Some people seemed interested in it. More people seemed not interested in it, to be fair. I was on the fence. I was in the middle. I like the idea, but I don't want it to be the primary format of KeyForge. I wanted the primary format of KeyForge to be Archon or some sort of sealed. But I do really like the idea, and I'd like to see it maybe at chain level in stores, maybe at store championship level, maybe even at prime level. I just wouldn't want to see it at a Vault Tour level or a national championship level or anything like that. That's what I don't want to see. But yeah, I'm interested in it. The community was very divided on it though. More against it than for it, but certainly divided, and it was very interesting what the community found on that one. And the community gave some feedback to Ghost Galaxy, and again, well done Ghost Galaxy for being so willing to take on feedback and so quick to act on it. They're not completely disavowing Alliance. Alliance still exists. However, they've said that there will be a restricted list of cards, which I'll go into a little bit more further on. And also as well, you will not be able to mingle sets. So all your house pods will need to come from Call of the Archons or Age of Ascension or the same KeyForge set. Also as well, this was very quick on there. Within a day or 2 days of that article going onto keyforging.com, there was a banner saying the tournament formats presented below are currently in preliminary state and will be going testing, such as during the 2022 KeyForge celebration. They may be subject to substantial change prior to December the 31st, 2022. In other words, let's give it a bit of time before we get really unhappy. So then Ghost Galaxy released another article yesterday, and it goes into the reasoning. So some of the quotes: these new formats apply only to official tournaments. Official meaning the relatively few sanctioned tournaments that Ghost Galaxy will be directly organising. Official tournament formats do not necessarily apply to casual leagues or store club tournaments. In other words, stores and clubs and things can play whatever they want to play, any variant of KeyForge they like, which is pretty obvious anyway. If it's your club that you're running yourselves, you can do whatever you want. Okay, so they also say that it's their plan for future KeyForge products to not be impacted by Alliance. In other words, they will still do 36 card 3 house pod decks, full Archon decks. They don't plan to be releasing 12 card house pods. So they go on to describe 3 player types: current players who, in their words, want a fun, thriving game with solid support and communication from the publisher, although it's often to be wide disagreement among existing players of how to deliver it. They also talk about new players who are vital to an ongoing lifestyle game like KeyForge, as most existing players eventually become lapsed players for many different reasons over time. New players want a positive experience with their introduction and a sense of richness and discovery. And then they talk about lapsed players. And they're critical for many reasons. Some of those being understanding why they stopped playing in the first place, and also understanding that they are the most likely to become new players. They think they can win back lapsed players more easily than they can acquire new players. From their perspective, there are 3 reasons why players became lapsed players. So their first one is they acquired a deck that they determined was bad through either play experience or looking up its, in inverted commas, score, looking at decks of KeyForge, and determined it was a bad deck. The second reason Ghost Galaxy say people lapsed is that experienced players may lapse as the fun of KeyForge diminishes as the player's collection grew. The new decks do not create a sense that the collection grows more valuable, but instead each new deck simply relegates another to never being played again. In other words, you buy a deck, is it my new best deck? No, in the bin, until you do get your new best deck. And I can see what they're getting at there, because it's a sensible point of view and it's a sensible argument. So yeah, I kind of don't disagree. Okay, and then for many new and experienced players alike, many sense a lack of agency in making meaningful decisions in regards to their deck. Now that's obviously true as well, because we can't make any deck decisions. The deck we get is the deck we have to play, whether it's in sealed or Archon or whatever. You can only play a group of 36 cards that you acquired. So yeah, they're right there. I don't know if they're right that players feel that way, but they're certainly right that we don't have the agency to do that. They then sort of go on to explain the alliance system and why they came up with it. So the alliance system introduces a form of deck construction to KeyForge by which players may form a deck from house pods. We're back to the house pods of 3 different Archons. Okay. We find this new format to be exciting, meaningful, and important because it solves the most common reasons for players leaving the game. Okay, so they think, 1, when a deck may be considered a bad one, it may still have more great house pods combined with other house pods from the player's collection. 2, given the combinational effects of pods joining other pods, it's much more difficult to pigeonhole a deck into a single score or type of play style. And then 3, and I'll go on to that one in a little bit in a minute, every new deck acquired increases the value of someone's collection because every new deck acquired can be added and played with every other deck in someone's collection. And I'm with them on that, except with them saying that Alliance is only compatible with its own set, as in you can't play AOA with Kota and you can't play Dark Tinies with Mass Mutation. I kind of disagree a little bit on that, because all the Winds of Exchange decks I buy are not compatible with any of the decks I own now in Alliance format. So I see your point, and it's entirely valid if you allow us to mix sets, which you don't want to do because a lot of the community seems to be vocal against it. Then they also go on to say, further, it should be noted that there will be a restricted list, a list of cards of which only one can be included. So if Control the Weak and Library Access both go on this list, you cannot have them both in the deck. You can only have one. And each card on the restricted list as well will have a number of copies assigned to it that you won't be able to break. Given its backwards compatibility, the seamless inclusion of deck type, constructed or not, the preservation of provides an enormous amount of variability. They basically say that they've been through the statistics of all this and they still think that there's about a nearly 100% uniqueness even among KeyForge if you allow people to mix the house pods. And they also go on again to reiterate that format will not affect future sales of KeyForge. Just like KeyForge Adventures exist, the Alliance format will exist, but it will not change the way in which KeyForge is sold. And then they go on to address why only 4 formats. Ideally, only one format is played. However, many games have found that a limited selection of official formats can create the necessary variety without harming the necessary connections too much. For these reasons, Ghost Galaxy has taken a principled stand to limit the number of formats, which are, at the moment, going to be 4. Archon Sealed, Archon Standard, Alliance Sealed, and Alliance Standard. Now then, I mean, I keep my podcasts quick because I feel there's a market for a 15-minute podcast, which is why mine are always around there. So I'm not going to go on too much about this. You've got what they propose to do. You've got their response to the community feedback that they've been given. I'm not at all disappointed with this. I was disappointed that Archon was going. I'm not anymore. That's a battle I've won. I feel I'm on the winning side there. Sealed, I'm in the middle because I wanted Alliance sealed, but I'm not disappointed to see True sealed there, as in buy a deck, play that deck. That's it. The Alliance, again, I was for it, just not as the main standard flag bearer of the game. On that one, I'm a little bit disappointed that they're saying you can't mix sets. I know a lot of the community was against it, and I know some of the cards why they were, like United Action and Library Access. I get it, but I'm disappointed that you can't do it. I'd like to do it, but equally, you can't win everything. And as I say, Ghost Galaxy are listening to podcasts, reading blogs, listening and reading the emails that you send them, and they're a responsive company. So I'll say this, I'm not disappointed with these announcements collectively. I feel that the game is in better hands with Ghost Galaxy than it was with FFG. And I feel that they are going to try and please as many members of the community as they can while maintaining KeyForge is actually a viable business. Because while it is a game that we all know and love, if it's not a profitable business, it will fail as well based on that. So well done to them for responding so quickly. And yeah, I just want to know more now. Let's have a look at this restricted list when it comes out. Let's have a look and see how the event goes when they run it at KeyForge Celebration. I really desperately hope that they stream some of the games or put them on, because I'd love to see how they go. But yeah, the sky is not falling yet. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, depending on what you're doing. I'm available on email, Twitter, Facebook. You'll see me there. Some of the Discord channels. Let me know what you think. I see it anyway, a lot of it. So love to know where people think I'm right or wrong. And let's see what Ghost Galaxy make of this and do with it long term. But feel free to like, feel free to subscribe. And the next Commpod, unless Ghost Galaxy surprised me with more articles and big updates on this, is going to be how I think damage cards which damage creatures rather than destroy them, are going to interact with token creatures and their power levels, and therefore which token creatures power level I think is the best. So that's what you're going to get next time. But thanks for coming, and as ever, may the Forge be with you.